So you want that 2000s aesthetic in your photos and videos. For those of us born in the 90s, this was the look that we had growing up, right? So in this video, let's talk about why they're still so popular this year, and my own Digicam collection from when I was younger, and a few models I picked up recently. As you know, fashion has already gone through a Y2K revival, so it makes perfect sense when we see cameras from that era come back too. We're living in a time when every photo taken from your phone looks pretty much perfect, highly processed, sharp, contrasty, HDR heavy, and ironically, that perfection feels boring. Some people crave the imperfection. People also like the older CCD sensors, combining with the color filter array and the color science from those cameras, creating that quote-unquote nostalgic look. So the Digicam aesthetics is pretty much everywhere now. You see it on TikTok, Instagram. I'm Chinese, so I'm on some Chinese social networks like RedNote, and the hashtag CCD is very popular there. And even on photo editing apps like Meitu, there's even a CCD filter now that mimics the Digicam flash look. And speaking of flash, that's another reason why people like them. The direct flash makes your skin smoother, all of my blemishes and wrinkles get blown out. You know what's my favorite type of shot? It's when there's a sunset in the background and then you turn on the flash. It just looks so good. And then when we look at the camcorders, sometimes you forget that some of them come with crazy 20x, 30x, or even 40x optical zooms. The zooms and the shaky footage just add so much more personality to the video. That amateur look just makes it feel like you're reliving the moment. Okay, let's start with my main camcorder. This is the Panasonic TM80. I bought this actually back in 2011 when it was first released. When I was making tech videos back in the day, this was my first camcorder, and I was saving up all of my YouTube earnings to buy this camcorder. This records 1080p videos, but it's kind of soft, so it really feels like 720p. But this has an incredible 34x optical zoom. So when we're traveling or when I use this camcorder, I really use the zoom feature all the time. The stabilization isn't as smooth as today's cameras, obviously, so you get that subtle shake that immediately makes it feel like a home video, which is the vibe that we want, right? It's like it's a little cloudy. And yeah, I just can't get over the zoom. It's smooth and it creates such a classic camcorder look. So my general recommendation for this kind of camcorder is either look for the same Panasonic camcorders from that era, or you can look at Canon Vixia or Sony Handycams from 2008 to 2012. You should be able to find them on eBay for under $100 easily. They're digital, so you use an SD card, it's reliable, and they're very cheap. And if you want to go even more old school, you can shoot on tape. A lot of my early childhood was shot on mini DV tapes. They're extra nostalgic, but it takes more effort to digitize them. Next up, this is my favorite point and shoot of all time. It's the Canon ELPH110HS. This was released back in 2013, so I've owned this camera for more than 10 years now. It's got a 16 megapixel sensor, shoots 1080p videos, and it's honestly one of the most reliable cameras I've ever owned. Over 10 years, and I use it very regularly, even till today. And just look at how tiny and thin this is. The portability allows us to bring it to pretty much anywhere, not just on vacation, but even on a night out or going to the park. My recommendation would be Canon PowerShot ELPH or IXUS series, IXUS. Anything from 2008 to 2013 would be good. They're a little more expensive. You can probably find them on eBay for like $150 or $200, maybe a little more depending on the condition. You can also look into the Sony Cybershots from that era. They're also pretty reliable. Okay, now for cheaper options, these are the kind of cameras you will find in flea markets or in thrift stores. This one I have here is the Kodak EasyShare C340, released in 2005. I think I got this for like 20 bucks. It's a chunky little point and shoot camera with just 5 megapixels and a 3x optical zoom. And what's funny was that back then in 2005, 5 megapixels was actually considered amazing for a point and shoot camera. This was the type of camera families would buy for vacations or school events. Easy controls, it's meant to be a point and shoot, so no complicated settings. And what's cool is that you can actually buy a Kodak printer and dock this camera onto the printer and instantly print photos at home.
Easy share camera and printer dock. Real Kodak pictures, real simple.
The downside for me is that this runs on AA batteries, which is convenient in theory because you can buy them anywhere, but the battery life isn't really that good, especially when you're using flash. It runs out of battery very quickly. And you know what? This records 480p videos, and it looks like something straight out of 2006. And like a lot of early 2000s Digicams, storage is limited. Many of these cameras only support SD cards up to 2 gigabytes. The size is actually enough because the photos are very small, but it's just that you probably have to buy them separately because most of the modern SD cards we have are way above 2 gigabytes, right? So my general recommendations would be the Kodak EasyShare, the Nikon Coolpix, or the Fujifilm FinePix from those years, like the mid-2000s. You should be able to find them for under $50 or even under $20 if you find them in a flea market or a thrift store. Since they're older cameras, they might be on the verge of breaking, so just be aware of the risk you're taking to buy these cameras. Alright, next up are some of my interchangeable lens cameras. These are all Micro Four Thirds cameras released around 2010. And just look at how nice they look. I honestly love the design of these small cameras from that era. This one right here is the Olympus E-P1. I actually made a whole video about it a few years ago when I bought it for about 50 bucks on eBay. But these days though, they've definitely gone up in price. You can probably find them for something like over $100 or $150, unfortunately. The great thing about Micro Four Thirds camera, aside from the bigger sensor compared to point and shoots, is the lens availability. There are so many Micro Four Thirds lenses that you can buy, and you can buy adapters to adapt to older vintage lenses. For example, here I've got this tiny Pentax 110 lens on it. The image quality technically isn't amazing, but it produces these quirky, dreamy photos that feel unique. And that mix of cheap gear and creative results is what makes it fun. But my everyday carry is actually the Lumix GX1. This came out a few years after the Olympus EP1. I pair it with the Lumix 12 to 32 pancake lens, so it's still compact, lightweight, and super fun to shoot with. You can get the body for just over $200, which is not bad. And I might do a more detailed review of this camera in the future. For me as a photography enthusiast, this is a perfect balance of usability, nostalgia, and affordability. Okay, so for Micro Four Thirds recommendations, if you don't want to spend too much money, I'd say stick with models from 2009 to 2012, something like the Olympus EP series and the EPL series. Aside from the Lumix GX1, which I have, you can also look into the GF series. So that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. Consider subscribing if you did, and drop a comment down below on what old cameras you have lying around, or if you're starting your own Digicam collection. I'd love to hear what you have. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.